This episode's made possible by Planful.
Hi, this is Bill Zarella. I'm the CFO of ACV Auctions, and you are listening to the CFO Thought Leader.
This is episode 950.
Me into what I believe today is, I love leadership. I love building strong teams. I love throwing complex problems at them. I love the framework that I use in order to, help them address things. And I would say the framework we always use, which our company has adopted now, is, data becomes knowledge. Knowledge becomes actionable insights. Actionable insights drive outcomes. And that is not a linear path. That is a circular path because you have to iterate, adapt, and have a feedback loop to make it all happen.
Hi, it's Jack. On today's show, we speak with Mark McCaffrey, CFO of GoDaddy. When 21-year PwC veteran Mark McCaffrey decided it was time to open his post-PwC career, he informed the firm's U.S. leadership about his decision. He began preparing a 24-month job search and launch plan, and he set aside an extra helping of patience. A little more than 2 weeks later, he received CFO job offer from GoDaddy. You'll hear that story and much more on today's episode. We'll begin after this.
Hi, I'm Rowan Tonkin, Chief Marketing Officer at Planful, and we're a proud sponsor of CFO Thought Leader. At Planful, we're empowering teams just like yours to drive peak financial performance in every corner of your business. What sets Planful apart? We have purpose-built applications for every department, from FP&A to accounting, marketing to HR, all with built-in financial intelligence. This means we can get you up and running within weeks, and it requires minimal IT involvement. So you can rapidly and seamlessly engage everyone across the business in your key financial processes. Best of all, you can't outgrow us. We take the pain of growing away with an unmatched ability to scale with you. You have an endless runway with Planful. See why over 1,300 customers around the world choose Planful as their flexible, user-friendly, end-to-end financial performance management platform. Go to planful.com and see how you can make financial performance a team sport in your business.
Hello, we're speaking with Mark McCaffrey, CFO of GoDaddy. Mark, welcome.
Thanks, Jack. Good to be here.
So, Mark, as always, we're going to ask you to look back for us. We're wondering, as you look back in time, what you feel the experiences were that best prepared you for this role, the CFO role. What would come to mind for you?
Jack, so many stories, having come up in technology and Silicon Valley and learning to deal with the highs, the lows, the unpredictability, the constant changes. And I have found through my career that has well prepared me for where I am today, right? I'm constantly reminding people, interest rates weren't going to be zero forever. At some point they have to go up. The markets hit high, but they hit lows, and there's always shifts in the cycle. And being able to lead through those cycles and be aware of those cycles and understand that, there are things that will be in your control and outside of your control, I think is probably the most relevant training I ever got to where we are today. And what we were facing, not only at GoDaddy, but just in the tech industry, as a U.S. economy, as a global economy, and everything else going on around us.
I want to sort of tip your hand a little bit for the audience.
Love it.
21 years at PwC, a partner overseeing technology, media, and telecommunications. And before that, you had your accounting career began prior to PwC as well. Yeah. So we would say, wow, he was an accountant for many years.
Right.
And maybe you thought at one time, I'm staying here. I'm not moving on. And of course, you do join GoDaddy. When was it? 2021. So during COVID.
Yeah.
Why is that? So many finance leaders do sort of change change gears during COVID. An interesting time of contemplation, I suppose.
Interesting time, and I'll start with the premise that I have preached to my adult kids now, who are all in their professional careers, about hey, it's okay to be uncomfortable, and it's okay to push yourself into uncomfortable situations that you haven't experienced, because that continues to make you better on your journey as a professional. And that's what I did at PwC. I mean, people look at the 21 years that I spent there, but you really carve it up into the different components of it. I started out as an accountant auditor. I was on the East Coast. I did life sciences, but then I moved to the West Coast, and I heard about this thing called software. And no one quite understood what it meant back in 1995, and where it was going to go, but it sounded really cool. So I jumped on board this software train, right? And then, after the bubble burst in, what was it, 2001, I started to move out of the accounting realm and get into consulting. And I got associated with a company, many people know it very well, called Adobe. And I worked with some of the leaders over there as they were going through a transformation. And then from there, really, I would say, leadership roles started to come in because I had a breadth of experience. So I started to lead teams within PwC, not only within Silicon Valley, but more broadly. And that got me a wealth of other experiences, right? Running thousands of people, divisions, tax, audit, assurance, across the board, and really sparked my interest to continue my journey as a leader. And lo and behold, when I was we were going through a pandemic and a COVID, and I'd always thought I wanted to move on to another role outside of PwC and not end my career with PwC. GoDaddy came along. Now, the connection with GoDaddy, and this is for everybody out there who's developing the career, is the chairman of the audit committee for GoDaddy was the CFO at Adobe, and we already had a connection. And when he realized that I wanted to move on, he basically said, "I have the role for you," right? And that was the beginning of my journey at GoDaddy. And I couldn't be more pleased at how it's taken me into a whole different realm today. And again, under the premise of not being afraid to be uncomfortable and do something new. Even at my, as I say, I am definitely not on the front nine of my career. I'm somewhere on the back nine, but it's okay to continue to try something new.
Also, though, just looking back, who you were way back when you first joined PwC in your first years there, and as you described the dot-com bubble to us, there were a lot of incentives to join some of these startups out there at that place in time. And you're not alone here, but you said no thanks. And you stuck with PwC. As you said, you went into consulting. It got interesting for you. You were able to sort of continue to grow way beyond auditing into new business models, what have you. How am I doing? Am I close? But
so, it was probably around a time in my career that my focus was on leadership and developing leadership skills. Yeah. And what I loved about PwC and served me very well today is, I got to see hundreds of teams, and I got to see teams that work really, really well and work with them. I had my own teams I got to develop, and I got to see teams that didn't work very well. And it allowed me to really develop as a leader and understand that leadership, this was one of my big moments, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. But leadership isn't a title; it's an emotional state, and being able to develop those skills and know how to manage through a crisis, know how to manage today. I think I'll have on my resume know how to lead through a pandemic, right? Know how to develop those skills to get through any type of crisis, difficult situation, even complex problem solving. That environment trained me so well out there, and going to one specific situation at that time just didn't seem to have that, I would say, path in front of me to get to what I thought was going to be a greater leadership role down the road. And then, I'm very passionate about this, not only for my kids, but for the younger generation out there, ultimately teach it. And that's what I enjoy. Those leadership moments, those coaching moments, that ability to mentor that just allows the future generations. And listen, there was always the, hindsight is 2020 discussion. Oh, maybe if I had gone to that IPO, I'd be in a totally different situation today. But there's a lot of them that it wouldn't have been a good decision either in hindsight, and makes me feel good about the path I've taken.
Oh, just wondering if you could help us understand better, again, the leadership development at PwC. We spent a lot of time speaking to finance leaders about their GE past and how the GE leadership training. Can you distinguish it from, as you've over the years have talked to different peers, what really set apart that sort of leadership track at PwC? Was there something unique about it or different, or what was it?
Yeah, because PwC was a client service organization. Your life had to be about solving complex problems and driving outcomes. Why? Because that's how you provided value. And PwC trained us very, very well, number one, to look at things from an outcome driven, what actions do you need to take to get to those outcomes, and how do you solve those complex problems? And you had access to just tremendous amount of even internal knowledge that helped you get through that. And then on top of that, what it trained you to do is feel comfortable in a boardroom, presenting theories and handling, questions, and being able to, help people get to where, you believe they need to get to. And PwC was just perfect at that, right? That one of the things when I came to GoDaddy, everybody immediately said is, you're so comfortable in the boardroom. You just act like you've been here forever. And the response is, it's because I have been there forever. I've seen hundreds of board meetings, and I've participated in them. I've seen the most, difficult situations dealt with in the boardroom, and I've seen crises just up and down, right? And that has served me very well today.
Let me ask, you felt comfortable there. How about investor relations and all of what's involved there? Was that something you got exposed to?
No, at PwC I did not. I dealt with press, and I did a lot of interviews and events, so I understood the Q&A. So the basic muscle around, going in front of an audience and getting asked questions, I felt comfortable with. But here's something that I didn't expect, right? And I had to adjust to when I came into GoDaddy, and I had to start, with the investor conversations. We were in an interesting environment in the economy. It was in the pandemic. People were trying to, figure out which direction things were going. But I was an unknown quantity to the investors, and that made them want to spend more time, ask more questions, and really get under my what my style was. Was I going to come in and try to acquire other companies? Was I going to come in and, do stock buybacks? Was I going to spend more? Did I like, have it? They wanted to know what the Mark McCaffrey theory was. And so I ended up, what I thought I was, getting ready for turned out to be more of, hey, learning about me, not the company, and what makes me tick. And I had to adjust to that very, very early on. And it's worked out great. But it my theory was at that point, and I still hold this today with our investors, is I'll take every meeting you want. I'll talk to you. I'm going to be an open book. I'm going to be transparent, because I need people to see what makes me, how I think about things.
I think there's like a trail of frustrated recruiters behind you that you've over the last 21 years. I mean, you could have done this 10 years ago, and maybe you were close to doing it 10 years ago, not necessarily with GoDaddy, but another company. What was the mindset 10 years ago? And compared to
PwC always did a fantastic job at the time. And they do it now. I'm just not there, so I can't say, for sure. Of always pushing me to another level to challenge me. So, I went from running the software internet, in Silicon Valley to, running all of TMT to, being on, the extended leadership team. So there was always that, progression. I also liked the fact that PwC, as I was getting up there, I was getting thrown the most difficult problems, right? And I loved the challenge of that. And that always kept me going. Ultimately, when I reached that point, that I decided, hey, now's the time. Because everybody always asks me, why was it like at that moment? PwC has a mandatory retirement age. Now, I wasn't close to it. But as I started to look out on the horizon of PwC, I looked at a restructuring they were going to go through. I looked at an election for the lead partner that was going to come up in the next few years. I started to realize that it was time for me to really think about that next step in my career. I honestly didn't think it was going to happen so fast. Tim Ryan, who is the U.S. territory leader, we were very good friends, and I had a very frank conversation with him that I was going to take a couple years to figure out my next step. I didn't realize it was going to take 2 weeks. That was the hitch. Like when I called Mark Garrett over at Adobe and said, "Listen, this is what I'm thinking about. You have any thoughts?" And he said, "Hey, I have your next gig." That part I didn't expect to come so fast. I thought I'd have a couple years to figure out what the right next step was.
Yeah.
And I'll say, and I have to call it the shout out, the CEO was a big deal for me, right? Aman Bhutani, our CEO at GoDaddy, wherever I was going to go, I knew I had to have that connection with the CEO. And I knew I had to feel that that was somebody I could partner with. And that night when I met Aman for the first time, I turned around to my wife and I said, I'm going to go work with this guy.
Oh, wild. Wow. So this is a good segue for us then. Tell us about this company today. Many of us think we know about GoDaddy. Tell us about them. What's happening at this company?
This has been fantastic. GoDaddy is going through a transformation. I think we all know the brand very well from the domains days, from the old Super Bowl ads. I don't know, if I still get asked 15 years later about, hey, are you going to do a Super Bowl ad again? We've moved on from that for obvious reasons, but our focus has never changed to empowering entrepreneurs, and a lot of people like to talk about small businesses, and we're really the micro business. We're the dreamer. We're the person who has that idea that wants to do something, different. I like to call them the underdog. Right, it's the mom and pop shop down the road from you that you love to go into, you love to support, and they're competing against such bigger players and such breadth and scale, and they just want to reach more customers. And we in essence have developed what I refer to now as the operating system for those people. Like they don't want to deal with 10 different apps to run their business. They want to go to one place. They want help from, one customer service. One of our secret sauces for years has been our what we call our care guides. And they just love engaging with entrepreneurs to help them out. But we've developed the system, from domain to your email, to your website, to your in-store presence, and now even to accepting payments for you. We allow that entrepreneur to do everything. And it only, they only have to go to one place. It's a one-stop shop. And, you think about even the ability to sell on social media, right? You have multiple different channels. We allow them to connect within each of those channels and bring it into a centralized dashboard that allows them to respond to their customers, to reach their customers on a global basis. And the one thing we learned in the pandemic is, they want to be everywhere now because you never know what's going to happen in life because, maybe you can't go to the store for a week because things are shut down, but you still want to be able to sell online. My favorite customer story, we went in here in California, there was a husband and a wife and their kids that they were selling out of their living room, and they just opened their first storefront, and they're using all our products, and then they import goods from India that they sell in the market here, and seeing them be able to adopt our technology and get things into the system and get them out quicker and get value for it, it's fantastic. And that was one of the things that attracted me to GoDaddy at the beginning was we feel the mission, right? Like we feel it and live it every day that we are helping support the underdog. And I'll go back to the statistics I use a lot publicly. We have 21 million customers. We have over 13 million interactions with our customers every year. Almost 25% of the internet passes through our servers because of our domain presence. We have a lot of data, and that is only the beginning of our journey right now.
For instance, if you were a small business and you had bought your domain and you built this site, then you would have to go out and partner or integrate maybe Shopify or something into your site if you wanted to do commerce. And what you're saying is, no, it's all one now.
All one.
And you just have to come to us and then we'll make it easy for you. You don't have to go hire another consultant to integrate that for you.
That's right. And even in, like, say you have a question on payments, it's the same care guide now that it can handle all your questions across each app that you're using and see everything. Versus, hey, I'm the husband or the wife in the mom and pop shop. One of you is going to spend most of your time on the phone trying to deal with 5 different customer services because, I'm trying to figure out why something's not working. And you know how integrations work, right? It's not me, it's the other one, right? You call the other one, no, it's them, right? That frustration level keeps them from doing what they love, and we allow them to do what they love.
Now, is this the future of GoDaddy then? Is this sort of one-stop shop, for less of a better way of explaining it? But is it organic development, or are there acquisitions that could be made to augment and complete the vision?
Yeah, we're in a fortunate spot that we have an extremely healthy balance sheet. We generate a lot of free cash flow that allows us a lot of opportunities to look at things. Having said that, we feel really good with our technology where it is today. We've integrated it into one technology stack. It's taken a few years to get that to where we need it to go. We're going to have some exciting product announcements coming out around AI. In our earnings, we teased our new product Arrow, which will make the one-stop shop even more convenient. We'll be displaying that in November in our headquarters in Tempe for an investor dinner, and we're good that we have what we call the entrepreneur's wheel, where all the functionality they need in a technology stack exists today. Having said that, there's always something out there. And we're always trying to keep an eye on what our customers need and what might make their life better. So something that comes along, whether it's big or small, a tuck-in or something that's a little bit more, sizable, we have the ability to take a look at it, and we'll make that decision on what makes sense for us at that juncture.
I would imagine what might distinguish this chapter of your career is all the customer data that you're paying attention to. Now that you have your lines of sight into the customer interaction and customer acquisition costs and what have you. How am I doing? Am I close to your world?
Oh, Jack, thank you for teeing that up. I actually, with all the data points we've had for being around for so long and now having an integrated technology stack, I don't, while I talk about it a lot, I don't think people fully appreciate the value of that data that exists. And right now, what we really use that data for is we actually give it back to our customers, right? So, while you're an entrepreneur, you're doing your business, you're at a flea market, or you're selling on social media, generally when you're selling through other channels, they keep the data. Or you're using other, payment processors, they keep the data. We basically take that information and put it into a dashboard so our customers can use that information today. Now, there is also value to us, as we have been developing machine learning now into AI. We're taking that data to look at the patterns of our customers that allow them to get to value achieved on their end a lot faster. It could be as simple as, a customer used to have to figure out what their logo was going to look like. We just prompt them now with here are 5 options based on what you're doing, what your logo should be, that would be great on your website. And that's a machine learning tool that we've created that will be embedded into our technology stack as part of Arrow that I've talked about.
Curious as to how you, your FP&A people or people that have that FP&A skill set, how you might be deploying them sort of in this customer arena.
Because you now have to sort of educate your investors, educate the board, educate others as to how that data translates into the financials. Is that right?
Yeah, no, it's a great question because like every new technology that comes out, there is always how are we going to make money off of it, right? Like what's the value proposition? And we talk about the statistics around it without getting into, hey, we're going to charge blank for this product down the road because I think we're all heading in a direction there, but no one's committed to actually what that will look like. But on the basic front, we always say when we have a customer who uses one of our products, their retention rate on average is about 85% for us, which is fantastic in and of itself. If we have a customer that goes to 2 products, that retention rate goes significantly higher. If they attach a 3rd paying product, they're a customer for life. And the long-term value that generates in our model is extraordinary over a period of time. So think about the proposition of, getting better choices faster for them to run their business. In essence, they're attaching bundles of product into there. And, a typical journey used to be, hey, I got a domain name. Okay, yeah, I do maybe need the email, but that's a decision 5 or 6 clicks down the road. By the time you get to the payments, you're 12, 15 clicks down the road, right? And being able to get a customer through all those decisions takes some time, and obviously they drop off. Now you can make that decision just from the domain name, because once you buy the domain name, it gives you the option immediately to have an email. You can take payments on the domain itself, right? It'll say, do you want a website? And if you click yes, it'll create a basic website for you. So all those decisions come faster, and that's what we're seeing even today as we've simplified the technology stack. Is not only is the demand coming in faster, they're getting to that second product and faster with us. And once that happens, it just basically builds that recurring durable revenue that already we see the benefit of. It just makes it greater.
We like to talk about lines of sight into the business and the types of metrics that you pay close attention to. More than anything, though, we're always interested in it, whether there's a new business dynamic that you've begun to measure with your team more closely, whether it was something you identified or something you inherited, but you realized the potential for. Is there something you can share with us, a metric or some sort of measurement that you realized a greater organization should be paying attention to in some way?
Yeah, so we've been on a journey with this since I joined, and what coming back to some of the original conversation about making sure the investors got to know who I was. Part of that was making sure I understood and gave them metrics for us to measure ourselves against, so they could see our progress towards it. So we're a broad business, and one metric doesn't always tell the full story, especially when you're in I would say, dynamic macroeconomic environment, right? So we have basically over the last couple of years laid out, I would say, even different metrics that we say, hey, we have an applications and commerce segment. We'll give you the ARR on that, right? Which gives you the health of our subscription. Right. But in there is now commerce. So, a new metric we're giving out is GPV, right? How much payment processing are we doing for our customers? And on the domain end of it, our core platform, which is our domains, our aftermarket, or some of our traditional hosting businesses, we'll give you the ARR, but we're going to give you more details around, what bookings are for those businesses, what average transaction sizes are in our aftermarket. So we are constantly looking to give them the metric that allows them to measure what they are using to see our progress towards our stated objectives. So I always have one or two new that I look at every year that, based on the feedback from our investor base that they say, this, right? The one that I went to at the beginning of the year this year, which I had an interesting reaction to, was we started disclosing net customer ads on a quarterly basis. And everybody was really surprised that, we went from an annual basis disclosure to a quarterly disclosure on that one. And my response was, I'm doing a lot of work right now, and I want to talk you through it on a quarterly basis. And I can't do that unless I give you the net customer ads. I go, and I'm giving it to you because you're going to see, I'm going to talk about how healthy we are on one end, but as I am, end of lifing some other stuff in another end, I probably will lose some customers and churn. And I'm going to guide you through that because I don't want you thinking we're hiding, we're not, telling you about something. The investor relaxed. They were like, just thank you very much for giving us that detail so you can talk about it and take us on the journey as you're going through some of these transformational steps that you took. Now, I always do laugh at them because once I gave them that, they asked for even more detail. To which I always say, hey, listen, just please put it in there. I have an investor day coming up. That's when usually I tell you what I'm going to start to do. I'll consider everything, but as always, I can't give you every little detail because we'll start to get lost in the metrics versus the ones that really matter.
Just as you just kind of illustrated for us, I have a sense, turn back the clock a year or even 18 months, the number of questions at investor gatherings related to AI were marginal. And coming into this year, of course, suddenly there was a whole set of questions that might have been asked. And here you are on the front lines speaking about AI. And like every other finance leader in a publicly traded firm, they have to begin talking about it in a way to educate, similar to. So can you share with us how that might have evolved? I mean, I know that there are product offerings now that you're emphasizing are going to be leveraging AI in a smart manner. But along the front lines with investors, how they came asking for AI information and how you were on the journey with everybody else trying to come up to speed about it, right? Am I right about that?
It was crazy. So a couple of things, taking back to some of our previous conversation. This is where years of experience, start to come in handy because, being in technology, you always used to see these little, what I would call spikes, right? And we saw it with big data. There was always the one that came to my mind. Oh my God, everyone went crazy on big data for a bit, and not realizing that, while that was going to be valuable, we were just at the start of that journey at the time of, how big data was going to change how we were able to use unstructured data that, ultimately has taken us to where we are today. And a little bit of AI coming through the same funnel of everybody caught on to the topic, but we're just at the beginning of the journey. The journey itself is going to evolve over a period of time, and it's going to be fantastic. But everybody wants the answers now to what the end game is going to be, and that narrative gets interesting when something hits the press, right? And the first thing we did was, hey, we have to gain back the narrative here, right? Like, people are talking about it, but they don't really. They're taking sound bites versus, this is what it is, right? And when that happened, and I remember because I was going into an actual earnings call when all of it was hitting the press almost simultaneously, and starting people with, AI is a developed technology that needs data, and this is what we've been working on. Machine learning evolves into AI. And by the way, we've actually launched 2 products that are AI. Now, our customers, they don't have an AI button on our website that they go to. But at the time, there was we had launched a product that said, do you want us, for a product description, when you upload your picture of your product, the system can automatically generate the product description and uses what you've done in the past plus what it's seeing to come up with that product description. That in essence is AI. And that's already in the system. And those are the little step functions of the narrative you have to start to explain. AI isn't going to replace me. AI is actually going to be a tool that is going to be extremely useful for our customers because now they can use it to engage their customers, right? So there's a whole trail of things, right? But coming back to the experience part of it is you can't, you have to remember not to chase the narrative that others are using and bring it back to, hey, can we pause for a second? Here's our story. Here's why I think this is going to be a big deal for us. Oh, by the way, we've been working on this for 2 years, although it's just, everybody's talking about it right now. And coming back to, and we have all the data that we can start building the machine learning around it, because you need that in order to make AI successful ultimately. And that's why coming back to why we think we're in a unique position, owning that technology stack and owning all the aspects of it allow us to run that through our machine learning to come up with those more efficient answers for our customers.
Interesting. Well, thank you for that.
We're going to jump to our finance strategic moment question now. This is where we ask you to look back in time, hear just one moment of insight that you experienced, but you experienced it because of your lines of sight into the business as a finance executive. What would come to mind when we ask for a finance strategic moment?
Finance, so many of them. I'm going to personalize it a little bit though, right? And
please.
I think when I was coming up in my career, and you always get to an aspect of you're looking at people around you, and they're getting titles and promotions, and maybe you're in a little bit of a different spot. And I started to realize that leadership wasn't about getting that title, right, at the end of the day, right? Having a title didn't make you a better leader, didn't make you more strategic, didn't make you more useful. And I changed my mindset of how I was going to, approach everything I did to, I'm going to lead people, and I'm going to emotionally lead people. I'm going to encourage them. I'm going to inspire them, and I'm going to solve problems. And that was, that's how I was going to engage everything I did. That would involve me into what I believe today is, I love leadership. I love building strong teams. I love throwing complex problems at them. I love the framework that I use in order to, help them address things. And I would say the framework we always use, which our company has adopted now, is, data becomes knowledge. Knowledge becomes actionable insights. Actionable insights drive outcomes. And that is not a linear path. That is a circular path, because you have to iterate, adapt, and have a feedback loop to make it all happen. And that has been the strategic lens that we've looked at everything we've done from a team perspective. And that can be done regardless of who's leading the team, regardless who plays what role on a team. And it comes to that framework that I have just employed time and time to drive our strategy in order to drive those outcomes that make a difference. And I also now use, I would say, the with my teams very often. Matter of fact, we just came from a strategic offsite and I was using it. You have to define what is emotion that does not drive an outcome versus an action that is driving that outcome. And when you can see the difference between the two, boy, you can get much better results because you focus just on the action that's driving the outcome versus what I call, we have a lot of emotions in life, but are we always driving towards something?
This is 1 Minute with CFO Anna Chadwick of Pitney Bowes.
With the raise in interest rates and the cost of capital going up, everyone, myself and all my CFO peers, are out there saying, any money we're spending, we're better be spending it for a massive return, because the cost of capital is prime and premium, and we're all here to make those better business outcomes and better business decisions. And how do we partner with our CEOs and the business to deliver that? It's now more than ever more important.
We're going to now move to our mentoring round, where I'll ask you several quick questions intended to inform and inspire future finance leaders. We want you to think back. It wasn't that long ago, actually, only 2021. But as you stepped in your first 60 days in this role, there had to be something that you rolled your eyes about and said, I didn't know it was going to be like this. There was some aspect of the job, perhaps, that just hadn't occurred to you. Anything come to mind?
Well, I laugh a little bit at this one because, I think when I took it, I anticipated the world was going to open up. The pandemic was over and life was going to be good. And I took the role, and the pandemic didn't go away. We were in lockdown for a period of time. So that part of it was a little bit interesting, and I learned some valuable lessons in there for myself. When I take on new roles, whether it was within PwC or even as things like GoDaddy, I always had my plan of how I engaged, and I know myself. I know how I lead. I know teams that react well to how my leadership works, and I know teams that don't, right? And I can almost peg at the beginning where it's going to work and where it's not going to work. And it's nothing against where it's not going to work. It's just, hey, let's just call it, quickly. So, those teams can go out and do something else, and we can focus on getting great things done on my end, but acknowledge that the style might not work. I did have to learn a valuable lesson in the pandemic. I slowed that process down, because being on video, not meeting people, not reading body language, it made me pause as to, I'm just not sure. I have my gut feeling, but because I'm not in a room and seeing the interaction, I doubted myself. This has to take, I have to give it a little longer to see how it works out. In the end, I should have just gone with my gut. I would have been right. And because of that delay, I would say I didn't get to things fast enough from an organizational standpoint, and had to catch up a little bit at the back end to say, hey, I should have just called this. This isn't working. I needed to reorg this team. I needed to find a new leader for this team, and just pulled the trigger. I eventually got there, but that hesitation in the new world of video and not being able to read that body language was something that I struggled with. If I had to go through that again, I would say I would be a lot faster in taking action. Knowing that my error rate may go up, it's probably better to move faster and just have that increased risk.
It's interesting as you've talked to us about different parts of your journey. It's like a self-awareness that you've experienced over time, similar to, as you said, those teams, you understood whether they were going to react to you or not. You knew how you've done in the past, I guess, with similar teams or makeups or individuals, how the investors looked at you and how you seem to have a self-awareness is what I'm getting at. If you look back in time, did you always have that? Was that something part of the leadership track? You became more self-aware of the impact you're having on others or how they might react to you?
I laugh a little. I blame it on my dad, right? And I'll give him credit. He was a great leader. He was an executive at New York Life Insurance, spent 45 years there, just a tremendous person. He had a humbleness to him of it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to do self-assessments and understand where your strengths and your weaknesses are, because that's how you ultimately get better. And he drilled that into me as I was coming up, and translated it into my professional career. So it's something that I feel has served well, and I also talk to other people coming up about, hey, the first part about leadership is you have to understand you are vulnerable, and it's okay to say I don't know, or I made a mistake, or I called that one wrong, and then you just learn and go on, versus the I would say the leader who just says I'm right no matter what. I don't want to hear any feedback. I don't want to collaborate. I'll make the decision and we'll just move forward. Ultimately, as a leader, you have to own the decision, but it doesn't mean you're not vulnerable in how you collect the data, how you analyze it, how you look at it. And when your teams see that, they respond remarkably well, because now it takes the edge off of their vulnerability. Oh, wait a minute. I'm working with people who acknowledge their vulnerability. Now I can give my point of view and acknowledge that I have a vulnerability. Well, now you're getting more input, and you're getting to, again, those better decision making, and the better you can get in decision making, the better you get in problem solving. Right? It's a simple equation. So I always say in the leadership aspect of things, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay, to be wrong. Mon and I, our CEO, we live in the vulnerability because we know it makes us better. And we even engage each other at that level of, if we can't have open conversations and share and be vulnerable with each other, then how are we as a team going to put forth a strategy that we feel has been properly vetted and debated? And listen, I come back to where you started it with the question. My dad really was the person who taught me that early on.
Nice. We'd like to ask you to reflect a little on the personal side for us. Is there something most people don't know about you?
Is there something most people don't know? There's probably a couple things, and I even use them, out there sometimes when I'm public speaking, but not people, unless they're directly heard it, don't know it. But in the line of sight to vulnerability, I tell people, listen, I grew up with a speech impediment. It's something I've lived with my whole life, and I've had to recover from public speaking, but I still have it, and I have to be very conscious of it when I'm out there. So it's not always, something that, people just go out and can do great public speaking. There are people that have to overcome things. I also always love to bring up, when people ask me about, what you've lived through in your personal life. Well, I was a single dad raising two daughters for about 8 years. If you want to tell about experiences in life, that was probably one of the greatest, and taught me more about how to handle dynamics unbelievably, right? And then last but not least, I grew up in Washington Heights, and that surprises people. I have an Irish last name, but I am half Hispanic on my mom's side. And so I believe I have a great cultural, I would say, balance within my life. So those are the things I always try to talk about, is life is about experiences. Those experiences, while they seem frustrating at the time, or you don't understand them when you're growing up, they actually create that personality that allows you to, bring that broader lens and view into life that, makes you who you are at the end of the day. I always have to point out to my kids, again, starting their professional careers, and remind them, I didn't start as a CFO, right? Life didn't just take me there. It was about all the steps and the journeys and the lefts and the rights that finally got you there. So hopefully that was helpful.
Mark, would you have a book selection for us?
Oh, I love to read. All right, and so I will tell you the book I'm working with right now, and I have to do a shout out to Jeffrey Moore, who he's a great person, great innovator within Silicon Valley. But I'm reading his Zones to Win right now. We're actually adapting it within our teams at GoDaddy. I love it. I love Jeffrey because, as you've probably picked up, I'm a framework type of person, and he is the master of frameworks, right? So that's my big shout out. If you haven't read it, it's a great book, and it's a great way to look at how to grow a business to the next level.
Great selection for us. Thank you. We're up to our final question, where we just ask you to look forward now, the next coming 12 months. What are your priorities as CFO of GoDaddy?
So we're in a transformational part of our journey here, and we are going through what I would say, now seeing the momentum of the business really start to pick up as we get into our outer years. So our goal, our strategy, is to do that in a purposeful way for our customers. At the same time, making sure we are running this business as efficient as possible. One of the things that I think everybody loves about our company from an investment standpoint is we generate a lot of cash flow, and, being able to increase that cash flow and, go through capital allocation choices, I think is a big deal for us. So we're on a journey here, and we're really looking forward to taking each steps in those journeys. And we really love where we're going with our technology right now, and the value it's going to provide our customers. And remember, we are serving those entrepreneurs, and we're empowering them, the underdog, and I think that just gets us excited in and of itself of seeing our contribution to that part of the market.
Mark McCaffrey, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
All right, thanks, Jack. Good to see you.
Hello, Thought Leader listeners. As you have perhaps already heard or even seen, we're now featuring the career lessons and moments of strategic insight shared by our CFO guests as Thought Leader videos. You can now find these videos on our blog at cfothoughtleader.com and, of course, our newsletters, but also on LinkedIn. If you haven't already, please go ahead and follow our CFO Thought Leader LinkedIn company page, and you'll be certain not to miss a single Thought Leader video debut. CFO Thought Leader, the #1 thought leadership platform exclusively for and by CFOs. As always, thank you for listening.